Hi, and welcome back. So in this video, we'll start learning about the first hook. Now the first hook that we are going to learn in our list will be the use state right here. So we will be learning all about the use state, which is really powerful. Okay? So in our project right here, what I have did in our components here, let me show you my project tree. So here in our source folder, I have added this components folder. And if you expand it, you will notice two folders. We have a class base and a hook base. If you open a hook base, we have only one file. And if you open the class base, we have only one file. So the benefit of these two folders, the class base and the hook base, we are going to show you how to do the same thing in different ways. So we are going to do it in the class base, then we are going to do it using hooks, and we'll show you what is the difference and how easy it is now with hooks. Make sense? And the good news is that we are not going to write anything that is related to class-based component. I'm going to provide you all the needed files because I'm going to go through the code, but I'm not going to write it because we want to focus on hooks. Okay? So, and also I have added this file right here called docs.txt, which I'm just going to add there, let's say, a normal text to explain some hooks in a very easy way. Make sense? So here, let's say, by the way, you have access to all these files in the resources for lectures. Okay, so each lecture has its own resource and you can go ahead and download it. So in order for us to create a state with React, then you have to say this dot state, and let me show you the class-based component over here. We have it right here. In order for us to manage state or make use of the state in React, we have first of all to define a class-based component. Second of all, we have to make use of the constructor function, then say this dot state is equal to an object. Okay, and we have to add everything inside, all the properties that we need. So this is in order for us to make use of the state with React, we have to define class-based component. But one thing that you need to be aware of, with the class-based component, the object or the state must be an object. And then you can add as much as you want from the properties inside. But the state has to be an object if you are following the class-based component. And with the hooks that we have, which is the use state hook now, we can make the state a lot more flexible. We can make it object, array, boolean, number, string, or whatever. So let me show you our example right here. Here we are trying to store a text inside our state. So here I am trying to store a normal text in our state. Why do I need to define an entire object, and the only goal that I want to achieve it is just to store a simple text? Why we have all this complexity? Okay, and this is where hooks comes into picture. We can, let's say, reduce all this complexity and just focus on storing a simple text. So let me show you how we are going to do that. In my hook space folder, we have this hook state file. If you open it up, it's completely empty, and you can call it whatever you want. Here I'm just going to generate a functional component, so type RFCE. You should be familiar with all these things because first of all, hooks are not for beginners. You need to have some experience with React in order for you to do that. And if you have some experience with React, then you already know how to generate functional component. So I'm going to hit enter. That will go ahead and generate this thing for us. Now, in order for us to manage that piece of text, that piece of error text, okay, that I want to store, very simple. I want you here to type before the return statement and inside your body function or the function body, I want you to type use state. Once you type use state right here, the auto completion will pop up, and I want you to select this one right here where it has the cube icon next to it. Okay, don't use the first one. I want you to click on the second one where it has the cube icon next to it. I'm gonna hit enter on the second one, and you will notice that that will import, or VS Code will go ahead and import the use state hook from React. Okay, once you do that, that will go ahead and import it over here, or you can optionally go ahead and import it as you want. And the use state hook right here, now it's here. And what we want to do, I have told you that all the hooks are functions, so we want to fire it up like so. Okay, we want to fire this function or this hook right here. And once you do that, once you let's say add it right here, then it will return for you an array. Okay, so I'm gonna store that. I'm just gonna say constant, let's say for example, I'm just gonna call it error equal to use state, like so. So again, I have just imported the use state hook, I have fired it up because it's a function, and now I have stored whatever the result of the use state in our error right here. Now let's go ahead and log our error. So I'm just gonna say log error, like so. In order for us to see all these things in action, we have to go to our app.js. I'm just gonna import, or I'm just gonna render our hook state like so. I'm gonna give it a save, and by the way, here I have create React app and running, and you can do that by typing npm start. Again, all these are beginner things. Okay, so you should be able to do that. Once I close that, I'm just gonna save my file right here. And where is the browser? Yeah, here we have the browser, and here is the application. I'm gonna say inspect to open the console, and I'm just gonna go to the console. And once you are here in the console tab, let me just make it a bit bigger, and you will see that we have an array with 2 items. So I have told you previously that the use state hook will go ahead and return for you it will return for you an array, and that array has 2 items. Okay, so we have the first one is undefined, the second item is a function. So what does the first one and what does the second one means? Okay, so here what I will do, I will say console.log array the first one. Okay, and what does the first one right here, why we are getting undefined? The first item in our array that will be returned from our use state, it will be the piece of state that we want to store. It will be the text that we want to store. So let me show you what does that mean here in our class base. It will be this thing right here. Okay, it will be the piece of state that we are trying to store. So that will be our the first item. How about the second item? The second item, it's a function that will be used to update the initial piece of state that we are trying to store. So again, the first item in our array will be the piece of state that we want to store. The second item, it will be the function that is responsible for updating that piece of state. And by the way, the use state hook give you the ability to give an initial value for our state. For example, here if you open your class-based component, here we can optionally give it an initial value to our error message. Okay, the same thing we can do in our hook right here. We can pass it over here, and since I want to store a text, I can give it an optional value to be, let's say, error. Okay, like so. Once I give it a save over here, and let me also save this component. Once I do that, I am logging the first item of our array, which will be the piece of state that we want to store. If you go back to your console right here, and we can see it right here, error. Okay, error and these dots. That's coming from line number 6 in our hook state file. If you open it up, it is the same console.log right here. So again, the use state It's a function that will return for you an array with two items. The first one is the piece of data that you want to store. Second, it will be the function that's responsible for updating that piece of state. So since it's an array, we can use array destructuring. We can use array destructuring in order for us to access these items. So I'm going to remove my console.log. Here, I'm going to remove it and use the square brackets right here because it's an array and I want to destructure it. I will call the first one error, and the function that we use, normally what we call it set, and the name of the piece of state. So in this case, set error. So I am destructuring the array that will be returned from our use state and call the first item is error. The second item, I'm going to call it set error, which is a function. So now we can log error and you will see that we will get the same result, and indeed we have it. So error and all these dots over here. And very, very simple, we can add a button. So I'm just going to add a button, call it update error. Okay, and what I will do, I will make use of the on-click property. So I will say on-click, it will be to update. So I will create a function called update error, like so. And since this function is not existing, I'm just going to create it very quick. So update error, like so. It's an error function. And now here is the thing. What I will do, I will make use of this function right here, the set error. I will say set error to be cannot log in. Okay, so cannot log in. Very, very, very simple. So again, I have created a custom function or a method right here, and I have given it to our button right here. So once the user click on our button, this function will fire up, and this function will go ahead and set our error to be this thing right here, whatever we are going to pass it over here. So if you take a look now, we can see error right here. But if I click on update error, that component will re-render itself and we can see cannot log in, which is the new value of our error. Make sense? It is very, very simple. And by the way, we can here, before our button, I'm just going to check if error exists, then I'm going to add it in an H2, let's say, like so. I'm just going to say error. If there is no error, I will add null. So again, I have added these brackets in order for me to add a dynamic value. Then I have checked if error exists, then I want you to render it. Otherwise, render not for me. I'm gonna give it a save, go back right here, and we can see we got an error right here because there is already a value, but I'm just gonna remove it very quick. So we can see we have nothing, but if I click on update error, we got our error right here. So our code is working. So now let's go ahead and compare our code. So we have our class right here, which is pretty much like a 30 line or so. And we have our code right here, which is like 20 line. So regardless of the numbers of lines that you have, instead of using inheritance or the constructor function or this keyword and all these complexity things, this dot state, or whatever, we can make use of the use state hook. It's a very, very powerful thing that you can learn. Now, if you are wondering where is the thing that we have did right now, it is meaningful or it's a real world, then let me show you my application right here. So if I click on login right now and I entered a wrong values, okay, and I try to enter a wrong password, I'm gonna click login. You will see we got this message right here. This is the exact same code that I use in order for me to implement this functionality right here. I started with an error message that it's empty using the use state right here. And once I click and login, I will check all the values, and if the credentials that was entered are wrong, let's say are invalid, then I will update my error and render it like so. So this is the first piece of the use state. We have a much more powerful examples that are coming in the next few videos. So hopefully that makes sense. Thank you, my friends, so much for watching, and I will see you in another one.